Welcome back to the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. Today we have Aram Layton of Just Baseball, who you all know was on the podcast last week, back on this week as Colby's out of town. Colby went all the way to Spain just to avoid watching the Red Sox. Seems a bit drastic, but
we all cope in different ways.
I guess so. I mean, leaving the country seemed extreme, but you know, as you said, we all do it in different ways. But today we're going to talk about win the weekend, the moves you need to make this weekend in order to win your matchups. Aram, how are you doing?
Good. We just finished the JV show. Talked about the Joey Ortiz call up. So pumped about that with the Orioles. I'm sure we'll touch on that from like a fantasy perspective a little bit.
Go ahead.
Yeah. well, I'm still talking about how I'm doing, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, geez, come on. I just want to talk about how I'm doing first. I'm doing great, though. I'm doing great. My Miami Heat, last time we were on here, I was like, we're toast. It's over. It's a wrap and Heat in 5. So I know it's a fantasy baseball podcast, but like, I'm pretty pumped about that. I'm going to be going to the Garden to see Knicks Heat. So I'm in good spirits today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Very good spirits today for the Heat pulling off the improbable there. But yeah, we'll lead it off with Joey Ortiz because I don't know what they're going to do in terms of like, I have my guess. And I don't know if they've come out and said exactly where he fits in. Jorge Mateo is the best player on planet Earth right now. So he's playing shortstop until he either comes back down to earth or, forever. But Joey Ortiz is a really, really, really good defensive shortstop. That's where a lot of his value comes from. The other part of his value is the hit tool. He's a plus hitter. He's a number 65 prospect at Just Baseball, which is a really high ranking for a breakout prospect at 25 that really kind of broke out last year for the most part and has battled injuries a little bit. It was a testament to, how good he looks. Plus hit tool, good speed, way better power than Adam Frazier, and an elite glove. I think he can run into some homers. He can do a little bit of everything. And I don't think you bring him up unless he's playing, at least 5 days a week. People might be thinking, maybe it's because he's not Westberg or Norby. I actually think they have him ahead of him on the pecking order. Or I think they have Ortiz above those other guys in the pecking order. So I think they promoted him because they think he can help them the most now. I hope I'm right about that. But I think he's a must pick up in every single format imaginable because this is a really good hitter. He's a really good hitter.
Mateo was battling a little bit of an injury the past week. I don't know if that flared up again. He has come back and played in a couple games. Something to monitor. Another something to monitor, Christopher Morel for the Cubs hit a home run today. His 9th, Matt Mervis home run, his 6th. Both of them carpooling on the way to Chicago. Please make it happen. Hendricks pitched today in the minors. 1.2 innings, 6 runs.
I watched
He's done, man. He is so cooked. Eric Hosmer hit a home run as well, which is not good for the Matt Mervis crowd, but who cares? Get Hosmer out. Few notes to run through really quickly, but before we get there, I have a little something fun for Aram. So he has been doing the Just Baseball Top 100 breakdown of each player, which you can go find Joey Ortiz on there over at the Call Up YouTube page, which has been awesome. I've watched every single one so far. I love that you all do each individual player. It probably takes, 8 episodes? 7 episodes? However many it is, it's a lot. But I noticed you all were talking about Royce Lewis, who has been on prospect list forever.
Yeah.
The year he was drafted, he entered the end of season prospect list. That was the same year that Obama finished being a president.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Another thing for you. Aram, in the StatCast era, one pitcher has hit a home run 467 feet, the longest home run hit by a pitcher in the StatCast era. Who is that? Who was that pitcher?
The longest pitcher home run in the StatCast era, which would have been 2015.
Yep.
Man. Mad Bum?
John Gray. John Gray, his only home run he had ever hit in his career, I'm talking minor leagues, the last time he hit a home run was his freshman year of college, and a 467-foot one out of Coors. That's probably going to hold, right? I mean, that's probably going to hold.
No, well, it can't. What pitcher is going to hit? Ohtani. That's it.
Does Ohtani? Yeah, I guess he would count as that, but he's not hitting. Well, I don't
You're
know.
not going to get a scenario. It's going to be very rare to have a scenario where a pitcher hits, I think, like ever really again. You're going to have like one of those 18 inning, marathons. You
Yeah.
use the whole bench, and then it has to be a team that has, I'm trying to think of somebody that like could still kind of swing it a little bit.
Not many.
That's the only way I could, like Hunter Green with the Reds. Like that's probably, if your whole bench is depleted, you probably go to Hunter Green there. Like that guy
Be
hit
kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I saw that, or I heard that John Gray stat on a during a game I was watching. I thought, man, I got to put that on the podcast. That's awesome. Few news and notes just to run through quickly. Robbie Ray out for the year. If you drafted him, tough. He's not that great of a pitcher to begin with, in my opinion. Logan Allen is up with Cleveland and impressed in his first start. Is he here to stick?
Yeah, it's a great question. I really, it is so hard to really project what some of these teams are going to do, especially when Tanner Bybee comes up and does what he did in his first start, which I would say, I think Bybee is the better option to pick up, but I think both of them could be here to stay. I really do.
I hope so.
They're beat up. Gaddis was bad. He's already back in triple. Obviously, McKenzie's not coming back anytime soon. I would be surprised. Like, what kind of message are you sending when a guy goes 5 2/3, 8 strikeouts, no runs, no walks? Like that's what Bybee did. And then Logan Allen's been really good. I would pick up both of those guys. And if the team sends them down, I think it would be more to just clear up space for a week and then bring them back up. Like I don't see it being a scenario where these guys aren't, a big part of what they're doing at the big league level. You look at like Curry and some of these other options that they've had there. Like those are good spot start guys, but Tanner Bybee and Logan Allen, those are like middle, especially Bybee could be a middle of the rotation arm. Allen could be a big league 4 for a long time. So those are both solid starters.
Corey Seager, 2 to 3 weeks away from his return. Michael Harris and Tim Anderson both on rehab starts. Trevor Story, quote unquote, began playing catch. Whenever I hear that arm, for whatever reason, I just picture Trevor Story like, all right, man, it's 1:15 in the afternoon, just finished lunch, like gonna grab a neighborhood kid and just throw around. What the hell is began playing? Like, is he going to the stadium and just like tossing around with somebody? Like, what is that?
Playing catch. I assume he's doing his rehab in wherever in Florida.
Florida, yeah.
Where is it? JetBlue Park. Where is that again? At Fort Myers, somewhere over there.
Fort Myers, Bradenton, whatever.
I assume he's doing it there potentially, but he might just be doing it at home. I don't know. He's playing catch I don't think he's going anywhere special to play catch. He's still
playing catch, man, in his backyard.
Just throwing. Like just the throwing the ball over your head is a step, I guess. Michael Harris, fun note on him. First career AAA game yesterday. He never played in AAA before. So that was kind of interesting. You have somebody like Michael Harris who jumped all the way from double. So that was his first career AAA ball game.
I kind of like to picture Trevor Story playing catch with Sixto Sanchez.
I was imagining the Sixto like lobbing in there. Like, oh, he's coming back. Who, by the way, I've heard he hit 97.
I've heard that before, yeah. We're going to jump into the streamers for this weekend. I have 3 possible streamers. We'll go through each one at a time. Reed Detmer Saturday versus Milwaukee at Milwaukee. Milwaukee's 16th in the league in WRC plus. They're batting 205 against lefties. Against lefties, they have Rousseau, Anderson, Voit, Miller, Joey Weimer, Blake Perkins, and Terang. Who's Blake Perkins?
Dude, I barely know who Blake Perkins is.
I saw that name today, and I know almost, I wouldn't say all the major league players, at least have seen their names. Blake Perkins came up, and I thought it was fake. Like, I had to check, and it's a guy, Blake Perkins. He's there.
He's been around the block. He was in the Yankees org before. I mean, he's an org guy that's kind of forced his way up there. I don't think he's much of a factor, but I like the Detmer streamer, especially because this Milwaukee offense has been struggling a little bit in spurts. You mentioned the struggles against lefties, and that like lefty matchup lineup, like, okay, you worried about Mike Brasso, who is literally only in Major League Baseball at this point because he hits lefties. Like, that's his sole job at this point. I think Detmers is going to have a really good year. And I know it's been like spots of really good and then maybe not as good so far, but overall he's been fine. I think this is going to be a really good start for Detmers. My only concern is he's a fly ball pitcher who's going to be pitching at Milwaukee. That's the only thing that I'm a little nervous about is you got a guy that likes to pitch at the top of the zone, that likes to pitch to fly balls in a stadium that the ball goes out a lot. That's my only concern there.
Yeah, and I counter that with who's hitting the ball out in this lineup. Like there's not a ton to hit it out. Like Luke Voigt's not the home run god that we all thought he would be at one point in time. And Anderson's had a good start to the year, and I know you know a lot about Brian Anderson, and good for him. Seriously, I like the player. I think he's a good player. I don't know if this is going to stick, but yeah, I like Detmers a lot. I like him in this start.
Cool. And what's interesting is Brian Anderson has almost always been like a reverse splits guy, and so far this year, no different. Small sample size, but only 3 hits against lefties. He's got a 694 OPS and small sample size, but it's historically backed up. So it's not like he's some like lefty masher either.
Next streamer, Eduardo Rodriguez. And I don't know if I can still consider him a streamer. I do because he's not owned in 40+% somehow. I'm sure he will be soon. He in your format, your league, he may be owned. He has pitched so well this year. 2.32 ERA, 0.84 whip, 25 Ks in 31 innings. His last outing was against Baltimore, who he faces Friday. Again, last outing, 7 innings, 1 hit, no walks, no runs, 6 strikeouts. His past 3 outings, Toronto, Cleveland, and Baltimore. 21 innings of 1 run, 1 walk, 19 strikeout ball. Going up against Grayson Rodriguez this Friday night. Now, if you ask me, Erod was kind of a guy that last year, very odd season. We don't need to get into all that. Kind of a wash for him. Kind of a wash for Detroit. Not a lot of intrigue around the Tigers this year, but he's pitching well. He's pitching like a guy who I believe he has an opt-out. Is that correct? He's pitching.
He does have an opt-out. I think he's going to be trade bait, and I think he's pitching his way out of Detroit.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. You had extenuating circumstances last year, but they had nothing to do with his arm. And so now you have a very fresh Erod too, I think. A guy that didn't have a lot of miles on his arm, still threw. So it's not like he just came off of a year layoff. It's almost like the perfect situation. He had a light workload, still threw. Obviously not perfect for a lot of other reasons, but he looks fresh. Velocity's up a half tick. He looked great in spring training. And then we're seeing it in the early going this year. And then you get a chance to have him pitching at home as well against a lineup that he just pitched well against. I'm all in on Erod being good for the duration of the season, so I like him as a streamer. But if you wanted to broaden it to, would you trade for Erod or would you hold on to him? Like, I wouldn't sell high, quote unquote. I'm very in on what he's doing, especially when you're having the fastball success that he's having. Opponents are hitting 161 against the fastball, and opponents are hitting 087 against the cutter. Like, that is the bread and butter for success. You're only as good as your fastball for the most part, and his fastball has been really good, both of those. So I'm excited about Erod. I think he's going to pitch like we were talking about how it's going to be a really thin pitching market. You and I were texting about that one night. Erod might pitch his way into being one of the better options on the starting pitching market, and I think he's pitching his way into a new contract. He probably saw what Taijuan Walker got, and he's like, "Damn, I need to opt out of this thing." And he's probably sitting there in Detroit like, this is horrible. He's pitching his way out of there and pitching his way to more money.
Yeah, I picked him up to stream him last week, and now he's just like a fixture in my roster. Like, I've seen enough. I picked him up as a streamer because I thought, man, he's pitched well, and I'm going to keep him if he does well. He did. A little insight. Aram and I text each other because we're both night owls at 1 a.m. about the most random players in prospects and whatnot, and it's usually with Aram's busy schedule. It's like the easiest time to get a hold of him. So anyone out there that has trouble getting a hold of Aram, DM him at 1 a.m. I just flooded your DMs at 1 a.m. You're welcome. The last streamer is one that makes me want to throw up a little bit. Vince Velasquez. I just don't trust him as a pitcher because we've seen years of inconsistency and years of whatnot. But man, he's playing well. Saturday, he goes at Washington. Why do I like this? Well, mostly because Washington sucks. Washington's 25th in WRC plus, 84 WRC plus. No one in that Washington lineup is truly scary. Like, I'm not looking at it and thinking, man, one of these guys could get a hold of one and really change the game. Not something I often say. The past 3 starts for Velasquez have all been quality starts. Lower competition, Cincinnati, at Colorado, and at St. Louis, a team that's really looking bad. Last place in the NL Central, St. Louis Cardinals. But in those 3 starts, all quality starts, 6 Ks, 7 Ks, and 10 Ks. Vince Velasquez, is he just feasting on bad competition? Or is he actually looking like he may have changed something?
I think a little of both. I don't think Vince Velasquez is a really, really good pitcher now, or even a good pitcher. I think he's a pitcher, which is better than what he was. Like, I think he's going to hold his spot in the rotation and be a guy that gets outs. But you're seeing a tangible change, at least in his pitch usage. Last year, the fastball was actually decent for him last year. But what was really good for him, and it's been really good for him this year, is the slider. And he went from using the slider 23% of the time last year to almost 42% of the time this year. It's a little bit lower in velocity with more movement. And, when you see a tangible change in pitch usage and then success with that, there's usually some good things to see there. Now, the fastball is getting hit harder, so there's something to watch, but at least you're seeing a change in his pitch usage and more success there. I think he's going to be very dependent on the slider. So days where he's not commanding the slider, he might get blown up, and that's why he's a 5. But I think he's proven that, you can put him in every 5th day and he's not going to kill you. And I think against the Washington Nationals, I love this. This is a definition of a streamer and a great one.
Yeah. Aram, it's time to talk about Sorare. Yes. And I just want you to tell us about your Sorare lineup and why you love playing the game.
Yeah, so I know you guys have probably introed your audience to it a little bit, but we at Just Baseball are really excited about what we've been doing with Sorare, and we just put out a video actually of my all grinder lineup because it's free to enter fantasy baseball. So it makes you the owner. It's free to play. You build your fantasy team with officially licensed digital cards, and you get to be the GM. You can buy, sell, trade, and construct a team, and you get to draft your team. So you have 120 points. The better the player, the more points there'll be. So Shohei Ohtani's like 20 points, and somebody like Taylor Motter is going to be like 5 points. But this is kind of where you can eat, and you guys are giving a lot of recommendations on players that are undervalued that can help your fantasy team. This is kind of the same thing. What's cool is you can do a free lineup and win prizes, VIP rewards, tickets, whatever it is, merchandise. But then you can also, build some lineups with a few dollars. And, so I kind of dabbled with some undervalued guys, picked up Arias before the season, picked up Alex Verdugo, believe it or not, and put together this all grinder team for my limited lineup. And that puts me into a competition where I can win even better prizes. So it's really cool if you want to try it. The link's in the podcast description. And I really love it. I really do love it. It's been a lot of fun. As you get rewards, you get more cards. You can plug new players into your lineup. I got kind of hosed this week with my reward. I was really pumped. I had such a good finish that they gave me a limited card. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to get a limited card. Like, this is great. It was Austin Gomber. But they give you rewards, and it could be Lindor next time. And then you can sell that card, or you can use it and plug it in your lineup and get a better card the next time. So it's really fun. I encourage everyone to try it, especially if you're a fantasy baseball fan, because it's weekly fantasy. And you get to really build your team and be a GM.
Not sure how Austin Gomber is still starting every single day in this league, but that's a different story for a different day. All grinder team, a few names that immediately came to mind. Austin Hayes. Is he on your team? Seems like a grinder.
He is, but a little bit too much swing and miss to make the grinder designation. Brendan Donovan. How about that?
That was going to be on there. Okay, how about TJ Friedel? That guy's always trying to bunt.
Should I pick him up? Should I pick him up? Because again, I'm looking for cheap cards. That's probably like a $3 card for my paid team. Are you playing on Friedel?
Really well? He really is. And he's a guy who I was not in on for the longest time. And he's finally turned the corner for me. He's always played well since he got called up last year and made a swing change. I was the one who was slow to coming around to him. Even as a Reds fan, I'm all in on TJ Friedel. Once he learns that you don't have to try to bunt on the first pitch every single time, he may take off. The other day, he tried to bunt twice, didn't bunt on two strikes, decided not to bunt, which is something he does do sometimes. and he just ropes a walk-off double. Like, buddy, quit bunting. All right, let's.
I sorry, real quick. Graham Ashcraft on the mound. That was a really cheap pickup before the season. Really pumped on that one. Vinny Pasquantino and Yandy Diaz.
How about
That's a grinder?
Oh, how about Mateo? He's kind of a grinder.
I know. I wish I picked him up. He's probably already too hyped up. But if you're drafting your team, the free team to draft, you should definitely pick up Mateo because I don't think he's like 20 points when you're budgeting your 120 point team. But for like my paid team where I buy the cards, I think Mateo's price has been up and up. But the cool part is you buy it ahead of the season. Guy starts playing well. I sell him. I buy 2 other cards. It's a fun market. It's really entertaining.
Back into a few names for this weekend. Saturday, Rays are starting Chirinos, and he has not had a start this year. He's been mostly out of the bullpen, kind of piggybacking, and he's probably going to go. The max he's gone is 3.2 innings this year. You're probably looking at something like that. So I would avoid him, especially if you have a limited number of starts. Some leagues you can start 12 total pitchers. Avoid him, but pick up the guys in the bullpen for that game. So what I'm thinking is, here's all I do for bullpen streamers. I go to the worst team in the league, Oakland, or I find a team, who's bad. I see who they're playing. I go to that team's bullpen. So the Rays this weekend on Saturday, pick up a couple of those bullpen arms just for Saturday, drop them, do the same thing Sunday. You can steal some points, strikeouts, maybe even a win in this scenario. Now, when you do this and you go to the Rays roster, you filter relief pitchers, you will not know any of the names. Like, they're not going to jump out to you because that's what the Rays freaking do. Any of them are good. Just trust us. Any of those Rays bullpen arms will suffice for your Saturday streamer. Just make sure they haven't pitched on Friday, or you have only pitched once in the past couple of days. That's the trick. I like that move. One name I want to throw out to you is Alexis Diaz for the Reds. Even though I'm a Reds fan, I literally never talk about them on this podcast because there's not a ton of fantasy intrigue. Alexis Diaz owned in about 30% of ESPN leagues. I like him this weekend because he's going to be pitching in Oakland against the Athletics.
Yeah.
2 baseball teams that are not great, right? I mean, really not great. The Reds probably have a chance to win 2 of 3, if not sweep the A's. In that scenario, I don't think they're going to put up 10-2 games. Like I feel like Alexis Diaz could have 2 opportunities to get saves this weekend, pitching in a pitcher's friendly ballpark against the Athletics. What do you think of that?
I love it. I think that's the best strategy too, right? Because you're not going to be able to pick up good closers on good teams. Alexis Diaz might be the best closer on a bad team. It's a sweeping claim that I don't have in front of me right now, but I'm trying to think about it off the top of my head. And most bad teams don't have a good closer. Why would you do that? It's like it's investing in something that you can't even get to yet. So it's like buying a fancy muffler, but I don't have a car. It just doesn't make sense. So I think that when you have a scenario like this, absolutely. And Diaz looks as advertised. You've probably watched more than I have, but the data looks great. The swing and miss numbers look great. I think opponents have like a 300 OPS. You think Oakland's going to buck that trend?
No.
I don't think so. And even if they're not winning close game, he's coming in. You're trying to win those games in Oakland. Those are the scheduled wins. You're going in there trying to win at least 2. So even if you're down 1, you're trying to keep it a 1. He's going to come in and strike guys out. I know you don't get the saves for fantasy, but he's going to be used a lot in this series. I think that's very clear.
Yeah. The Reds just swept Texas. They now have a chance. This is the Reds' best chance to have a 6-game winning streak all year. This is it. And that may sound like nothing, but inside of a clubhouse, that means a lot. These guys are motivated and focused. They're not, I know everyone loves joking about how much they suck and whatnot, but this is a occupation for these players. They're going to be going out there strong. And I think they'll beat Oakland. As somebody who's watched almost every A's game and every Reds game,
I'm sorry.
I think that they can handle Oakland. Next guy, Keibert Ruiz, catcher. Now, we just talked about Pittsburgh going up against the Nationals and how I wasn't really scared of anyone in the lineup. Ruiz is a guy that I don't think he's going to, turn the game over with a 3-run home run. Like, I'm not predicting that. He's batting 286, 353, 416 on the year. The past week, 375, 444, 625. If you are struggling with catcher, something that I have said on the show, I dropped Sean Murphy, picked up Logan O'Hoppe. He's injured. Now I have Jonah Heim. But if you need a catcher for a weekend, I like this matchup. He's at home. Vince Velasquez has been pitching well. The Pirates are playing well. And holy shit, man, I hate the Pirates just naturally. That team is so freaking fun.
Yeah.
Thursday, today, the day that we are recording, they just beat LA and they made it look easy. Like they made it. I don't even know how to explain how much fun it was to watch that game because I've never really seen something like that since the days of like Starling Marte and Polanco and
Prime Kutch, and it's honestly awesome. It's great for baseball when this happens.
Great for baseball.
I would have never. I mean, I am all in on Ben Cherington and what he's doing. I've said that on the Just Baseball show, but man, did I not expect for them to jumpstart it this way. I think everyone thought they'd be better. They were a very popular over bet in terms of win total, but I don't think anybody had this happening, right? I don't even know if the Pittsburgh Pirates had this happening. And remember, they're doing this without O'Neal Cruz. So you're going to bring back somebody that, we don't know if he's going to be superstar O'Neal or, something more watered down, but we know that he's going to be an above replacement level player. We know that he's, a game changer. So it's pretty exciting. But to circle back to Ruiz, I really, there's a reason why the Washington Nationals gave Keibert Ruiz this pre-arb deal. This is a very high floor catcher. This is a dude that I would venture to say has the best bat to ball skills of any catcher really in baseball. Obviously there's a lot more to the game than that, but you look at zone contact. I don't know if you have Savant in front of you, but I'm pretty sure it's 95%, 94%. He's got elite.
To compare, do you have any idea off the top of your head, and only you would know this off the top of your head, where Will Smith is, roughly?
Will Smith would probably be in the mid 80s.
Mid 80s. Okay, so wow.
So he doesn't hit the ball as hard. There's a lot more that goes into it than just bat to ball. But what this guy will do for you is give you a couple hits. That's the thing, is he's not going to be that black hole catcher that you're throwing in there please run into a baseball. It's not going to be Mike Zunino, please homer. It's going to be, hey, this guy will give you some hits. He's going to be consistent. I don't know if the OPS will eclipse 800, but I know it won't go below 700. And there's something to be said about that. As a switch hitter who puts bat on ball with some of the best zone contact rates in baseball, and it's not like he just hits no. He's not Nick Madrigal. Hits the ball hard enough. There is potential for 800 OPS. There is potential for 15, 20 home runs. He's still very young. But this is a guy that I think is very slept on because of his organization. Just because he hasn't, done anything extremely sexy, but he's going to hit the ball. He's going to put bat on ball.
The next name, please don't laugh when I say it, Mauricio Dubon. A name that probably you don't imagine in fantasy circles too often. And we've talked about him on the show. He is actually playing well. First off, he's leading off, which is huge in fantasy circles because he is obviously going to get the most at-bats. This year, he is slashing 389, or against lefties, he's slashing 389, 476, 444. Bailey Falter's a lefty who's going up against him on Sunday. So if you picked up one of those Rays bullpen options on Saturday, after that game, you can drop them, pick up Dubon for Sunday. This year, on the year, he's slashing 330, 355, 421 with 2 stolen bases. So he can sprinkle in some stolen bases. It's a good team. They haven't played exactly great yet. But in terms of run production, that lineup can put up 10 runs in the snap of a finger. It's not out of the question. And I just love him on Sunday. If you're looking, he can play multiple positions as well. So if you have an injury, there's been a few players on the bereavement list and the paternity list as well, which is always difficult to manage. And how do you?
And Altuve's not coming back anytime soon. So
yeah. So I like that option for Sunday. One last name for you, and I love this guy, Esteury Ruiz for the A's.
Top 100 guy.
Top 100 guy. We are big on Ruiz here, and He's just such a damn exciting player to watch. Wednesday night, he stole 4 bags. 4 bags in one game. First 2 weeks, he wasn't stealing bases. They weren't really running him. He had a lot of doubles. He wasn't on first as much. He's starting to settle in 270, 343, 326 on the year. That's his slash. 9 stolen bases, including 4 on Wednesday night, as I mentioned. What I like here is he's going up against the Reds in Oakland. So you get Luis Sessa, certified bad pitcher, on Friday night. Would not surprise me if he gets on base once or twice. And what they've been doing is he gets on first because he's kind of just a singles guy, stealing second. One of the we're talking A's here, but their better contact guys are batting second, and they just send him on anything going home. So you could get single steal run scored pretty easily. Saturday, it's Hunter Green. Electric fastball, right? Ruiz is hitting 385 off of fastballs this year. He's really struggled with the breaking pitches, but fastballs, he's hitting well. Sunday, Nick Lodolo, a lefty who has kind of struggled the past few starts. I like Ruiz, especially if you need stolen bases, because Tyler Stevenson, we love him. Reds fans love him. He's a terrible defensive catcher who can't throw anybody out. If I'm the A's, I'm running on him every time.
So do you know what the Reds caught stealing percentage is this year? In terms
16.
of like 17.
7, I just guessed 6. I don't know why that's just the number that popped into my head.
20. That's actually a sick guess. I thought you knew. I thought you were just being a freak and like looked
it just
at that
popped
recently.
into my head for whatever reason.
Tyler Stevenson, if he's specifically catching these games, he's thrown out 1 on 12 tries. So yeah, this is and this is something that teams like stolen bases. I was talking about this with actually a couple of minor league guys. It was really interesting. Like they consider stolen bases stolen before they're stolen. Like there is more that goes into this than just like, oh, I feel good here, I'm gonna go, or oh, I get the sign from the dugout, I'm gonna go. They know every pitcher's time to home, and when that pitcher comes in, they got the green light. They also know when catchers stink at throwing guys out. And if you have a catcher that stinks at throwing guys out and they have a pitcher that they know like is not extremely quick to home, I promise you they consider that base stolen in their head already. Esteury Ruiz will consider that base stolen already. So I would almost guarantee that he has the green light every time he gets on base. They are very aware of the fact that Tyler Stevenson is 1 for 11. Might be a little different if Casali's out there. He's thrown out 2 on 4 tries. But overall in the year, they've thrown out 4 on 24 attempts. Like that is so bad. So I think Ruiz he will lead the weekend in stolen bases, especially with the trend that we saw, how aggressive he was the other night. And now he's going into a matchup dream. This is going to be fun. I think he might steal like 6 this series or 7.
That would be awesome. Another thing to consider is the A's have trouble scoring runs because their lineup sucks. So whenever he gets on base, they need to be aggressive with him in order to try to manufacture a run. So It's not like a team that's better and it's like, oh, we'll pick and choose. Like if he gets on base, he's going to steal. That's what we've seen recently. I like that. I'm not going to get too deep into the A's lineup construction and why it may make sense. Just trust us. Esteury Ruiz this weekend, a few stolen bases for you. And he's on the waiver wire. One last guy. We don't need to break him down. Alex Lang, Detroit Tigers. He's sick. I love him. He's available in most leagues. And even if he doesn't get the save, he's going to strike out too. So like you get a couple strikeouts. If you're in a points league, you get 6, 7, 8 points just free, just like that.
And realistically, I mean, I know we're talking like streamers, but if that's somebody that like you're going to make a decision to keep him on your roster, I would presume that he gets dealt. Like it would be really silly if he doesn't get. Why wouldn't you trade him at a certain point? I was thinking about it because at first I'm like, maybe not. Like maybe this is one of their building blocks. A reliever's never a building block, and this team needs more resources. Maybe like I don't know, Scott Harris might want to keep him, but there's nothing better than having a reliever get traded to a better team and potentially be able to pick up saves there. The only challenge is then he might not be the closer there. But that said, in the meantime, like this is probably one of the best closers on the waiver wire just because he's on one of the worst teams.
Yeah. And Arm and I were talking about that the other night. I was trying to find a way to get Joe Adell to Detroit. and
Yeah,
ship
and,
it
I
out.
pushed back. I was like, maybe they won't trade Lang, but like the more I've been thinking about it, I'm like, you're gonna keep a 27, 28-year-old reliever? Like, probably not. Probably not. But I wouldn't do it for Joe Adele if I was them. But
Yeah.
I think they can make a move.
Sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background as well, but any closing thoughts but before we let you go here?
It's not bad enough. Don't worry. I've had the dogs barking so many times in my episodes, but usually can't notice it. Nothing else really. I would love to hear what people think is So Rare. Honestly, like it's not just like oh, this is our partner. Like we got to
Yeah.
do this ad read and get through it. Like I've had people DMing me their lineups. I have a lot of fun with it. Like there's a lot of fun community aspects to it. We're gonna be doing a giveaway of a Cal Quantrill card soon, which is really funny. So I'm pumped up about that, like a rare Cal Quantrill card. But we're hoping to build like some communities soon where like you can compete against other just baseball fans, like fun stuff there. So definitely wanted to plug that one more time. I promise you'll enjoy it. You don't have to spend money to try it. But other than that, you know where to find me on Twitter at armweight8. Really excited to just keep churning out prospect stuff and big league stuff. And Clay won't plug his stuff that often, but he's killing it with articles on justbaseball.com. Go check that out. And that's all I got.
One last thing. Tell us about Just Breaks.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. We're really excited. The 2023 Bowman baseball just dropped, which is awesome. And a lot of awesome prospects in there. And we partnered with some buddies, Kendall and T. T Wright, Kendall McGee. They've been doing box breaking for a while, which is, you get an opportunity to, instead of buying a $400 box, which like I generally can't afford. Most people can't afford to just spend $400 in a box.
On cardboard.
They buy multiple boxes in bulk, and then they'll sell the 30 team spots. So you look at the checklist, which I just broke down on justbaseball.com, my favorite autographs in the checklist, and say, hey, I'm going to buy the Yankees. So you buy a Yankee spot in that break, and any Yankees card that is pulled is yours. But instead of paying $400 for a box, you pay $30 for the team spot, and you get to join us on the break. I'm going to be on there with Kendall and T. We're going to be live streaming it, ripping the cards, pulling autographs, and I'll be breaking down the prospects, and we have a lot of fun. It's just_breaks on Twitter and just breaks on YouTube. Great way to get into collecting. If you're already in collecting, fun way to rip. It's just come hang out with us.
Awesome. Well, that's it for the Win the Weekend episode. Colby will be back next week. We have been coming on Sunday to do streamers and waiver wires as well. Thanks.